Welcome to the cat animal control presentation for the village Cabarao with me, Chris, and with me on a Skype call is Hong, who is not an owner but a resident, and she is looking and managing the animal challenges that we have at the village on her own expense and free time since 2015. So, welcome, Hong.
Hello.
Let's get started. Now, we have at the village, since it was founded, a clear and strict no pets allowed policy in the body corp rules. So that means they got softened because of the challenges that we faced. They got softened in a way that animals, pets can be allowed if agreed upon with consent, written consent by the body corp, or to be more exact, by the committee of the body corp. In the past, unfortunately, there was a stricter no pet, no animals rule, but nobody cared and nobody enforced it. So if we go way back in the days when Graham was the manager of the place and came just freshly in as a manager, we had chickens and dogs and all sorts of kind of animals just wildly running around and partially very dangerous situations. So he cleaned that out. So that got a lot better. However, there was still a lot going on that couldn't be as easily managed, mainly cats and animals. So that's where we are starting. That was in 2015 when Hong came on board. Here again, she's not an owner. She doesn't have to do any of this. This is all just done out of her good heart, goodwill, her love for animals. And so yes, just to make sure everybody understands, if they want to have a pet at the village, it needs to be approved by the committee, by the body corp committee, because we had so much going wrong in the past with this. And we cannot expect any resident or any owner, for that matter, any other owner, anyone else to pay for this kind of issues. So with that and the legal part out of the way, we can start here. And this is in 2015, I believe, was that picture taken with 10 days old kittens found in a plastic bag, dumped hanging from a tree at the river by the village, at the village in the back. Hong, can you tell us a little bit about your experience from back then?
So I arrived and there were quite a number of cats roaming around the place. I have asked the tenant here whether did they get any help from the local community or the SPCA, and they told me all sorts of stories, which I wasn't sure how true that was. So I contacted the SPCA and I got in touch with a lady there, and what I got told was that they found it's very difficult to come to the village and try to catch the cat here because the people here wasn't collaborate with them very well. So I offered that I will bring them the cats, and they offer me back that if you bring any cat, they will desex it for me through the trap and neuter and release project that they had back then. So then I started catching the cats since, so I started feeding them and try to get close to them. It took a long process. And then at the end, I got quite a number of them desexed and got them home as well. So that was good. Just what the issue is, there's still cat that was unadopted because they are older. They
Yeah, let's let me stop you there, because that we have that in a different slide, as you know.
Okay.
Just so a bit of the history. Um, so as and I assisted at that point as well,
Mm,
as others. So there were the issue was to put it in more direct words. Thank you for your friendly words there. But basically, people just had animals as much as they pleased. Nobody looked into it. There was no check from any kind of agents. So they had, they picked up some kittens somewhere and then they had them there. They weren't desexed. They got sick because nobody really looked after them. The people who got them in left, and because they, didn't pay rent, or, had trouble with the law and things like that. And so the cats were just wildly roaming around. However, I can, clearly confirm, and we have plenty of proof of that, that those animals were in fact brought in by the former residents of the place. So they were not coming from anywhere else. Just to make that absolutely clear, it was absolutely no, as with many things in the past, there was nothing was enforced. Nobody looked and had oversight over the place. The agents didn't bother looking into anything, that cost quite a lot of money. So some owners have some very bad experience with that. Their units got smashed. The agent said, well, and the same happened with animals as well. So they got their pets, whatever it is. They didn't desex it. If it got too much work, they just left it at the village. And yeah, of course, in addition to that, because the village has such a bad reputation, some people find it is okay to, not just dump rubbish, but also dump their unwanted pets over there. So that was also something that happened a lot back in the days, which were prior to the CCTV as well. So that's where we are starting, a little bit of history here. Um, and that's where Hong and I and some other animal-friendly residents started, and we had quite some discussions with some, and that's where the SPCA basically opted out, with some of the residents at the time who, on one hand, didn't want to really look after their pets, but also didn't want anyone to take them away from them. It's my property kind of thing. So there was a lot of um, issues that had to be resolved first, and it was a lot of work, which brings us to the next slide, which is our legal responsibilities as a body corp. Now, by going and, by not working on these issues, we are obviously creating something, or created something in the past that can go in the direction of animal hoarding. Having people there that clearly had issues, looking after their animals, apart from breaking the rules for that anyway. We have legal responsibility as a body corp, as owners, to make sure that if there are any kind of animals there, that they are looked after proper, that the tenant or the resident is looking after them properly. Otherwise, it can have negative consequences on a legal side of things, and of course also financially problematic. So it is very important for owners to make sure that if you rent out your place, that the no pet rule is properly enforced. In addition to that, having animals running around, dogs, cats, whatsoever, and that especially when they are not healthy or look somewhat wild, this is bad for our, public relations. We want to get rid of the being the town's most problematic place, to put it in friendly words. for YouTube. So we want to make sure that everything is looked after well, and this is why we started work back then. And here again, volunteer work, no payments involved whatsoever. Right, so what problems did we get that were sort of, how can we call it, second generation problems? So, somebody got a cat. That cat wasn't desexed, and, the cat is just an example here for other animals as well. You can see on the graph on the side how quickly this becomes an even bigger issue because animals that are not desexed multiply. And so our main focus, same with the SPCA, for what also the SPCA focus is to trap animals and get them desexed so they can't multiply anymore. And so this was the hard work that we had to do. So here we can see, Hong, maybe you want to have a little talk about this. What is this graph about?
So when I arrived, it's sort of the representation of the play that kind of steer people away. So we didn't really had any help until I came in and made contacts. So I got through with the project at the SPCA, and I try to catch as many as I can and dissect them as much as possible as well. And also try to spread the word within the local community to help them to get, another home.
So basically, we had all these challenges that we already spoke about. I spoke with some members of the SPCA as well at the time, and they were literally scared of going at the village because they have been verbally abused there and feared for worse than that. So, and I can understand that because, as I said, some people don't look after their animals, but don't you touch them. So that was back then. Lucky, all of the people that were making us trouble back then have been gone since then. And yeah, so our place within other things has now a much better image and a better business attraction. And we like to improve even more. So we have some photos. You like to talk about this, Hong?
So I started the block where I used to stay. So that was B block. And the other block, I wouldn't go near back then either, but I started with my block and then A block. So these are the cats that left from the tenants. And when they moved out, they were just hanging around there. But they was quite, they wasn't that close to humans. So it took me a long time to feed them and try to catch them because they're quite smart. They didn't want to get into the trap. So, yeah. But at the end, I got all the female, a couple of male, and the kitten was the one that got easily adopted. So that was a good success for the start. And I also have help from other tenants here who helped me to, trap them and share the washroom and try to shut the windows and try to catch them as well.
Good. But yeah, so is this, it was back then, me being there as well, a bit of a mix. You had really good people, and I guess it is still the case in the sense you had some really, really good people that, are a bit financially short or just wish to retire somewhere small. And then you have other individuals, more problematic individuals that one has to be careful with. But of course, it's much better now than it was back then. And yes, so you spoke about the, I think we have another slide on that regarding the rehoming of cats.
Yeah.
But we just go quickly through that. So we worked with the SPCA, as you can see, from abandoned cats, half sick, half starved, to a nice, clean, desexed cat, house cat, uh, which is a great success. So that's the slide I was thinking about. So we have had 25 cats desexed in total from 2015 till now. Most of them were in 2015 and 2016. So I think since then we occasionally have one or two, but that's pretty much it. Okay, and from those, 15 got adopted so far. The other ones were too wild or passed away since then. So we basically took the ones that couldn't be rehomed, couldn't be adopted. We took them back, and Hong, you are feeding them here again on your own expense,
Yep.
to make sure that they have a humane, and proper life as much as possible. Look after them, that they are not sick, all on your expense. And we found out over the years that we got quite some advantages out of this. So the cats pay us back in a sense. So these six cats obviously are not aggressive anymore. They are still reasonably territorial, but they are not aggressive anymore. They won't run into your house or anything like that. They keep other animals away, so other stray animals, because they're still territorial, so they protect their territory. They also help us with pest control, as you can see in this little sample photo on the side. We find quite a lot of dead mice and rat around the place, especially in front of Hong's unit, which is not a problem. So, we always remove them. But that shows that they help us save money in terms of not having to do as much, putting out as much poison as we would have to if we wouldn't have this stray animals, now desexed stray animals around. So that's quite good. They keep the other stray animals away, and they help us to reduce the rat and mice population. So here again, Hong is doing that all on her own costs. Initially, the first lot was paid by the SPCA, so the SPCA looked after the desexing in 2015, 2016, but since then everything else has been paid privately, personally by Hong, and I would like to see that to a certain degree changed, and maybe we get some support from the Body Corp for this, in terms of at least getting the cats getting reimbursed for the desexing of cats. We don't have any dogs around anymore because the council is fairly good now after the dog issue. So that would be good to get some more support from the Body Corp. At this point, it's all Hong's work, all Hong's money, her own personal money. And as I said, she is not an owner. It's a bit of a, how would I say, a work from the heart for you, Hong, isn't it?
I believe that if there's healthy animal and the place is looked after, it's a healthy environment to live, and I live here, so I would like to see that.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the successful collaboration with the SPCA in TNR, so Trap Neuter and Release project in 2016,
Mm.
as mentioned before, was very, very good. But since then, since 2016, Hong is covering all the costs, looking after the unadopted cats, the wild, the stray cats, and also potential newcomers that have to be trapped and desexed. Now, we also had cases for completion of the picture where tenants did not follow the body corp rules and got pets in the place. The owners had to cover the costs for this. So trapping a cat is, I believe, out of my head, something around $150. So if the owner doesn't ensure that the body corp rules are followed properly, the body corp has the right. So all the owners have the right, as voted in the body corp, to get pest control in and let them take the animal, let them trap the animal, and look after the animal, and that is a very expensive process for the owner. So I can here again only say, please owners, if you rent out, make sure that you have a good agent who is making sure that the tenant is fully following the body corp rules. And for anything else, Hong is doing a really good job.
Thank you.
Now, all of this got a lot better with the CCTV in place. So we had cases where it was clear to us that these animals came from one tenant at the place. But of course, it's hard to prove. But since we have CCTV, it's much easier, and that's how we were able to prove and therefore charge for this kind of matters. Hong, of course, doesn't get involved in those kind of things because nobody wants to deal with abusive people, and nobody should have to. So this goes straight to court. If there is a tenant who has a pet which is not approved, this goes straight to court. This goes straight to the legal team. This has nothing to do with Hong or anybody else. This is just the standard procedure. And since this standard procedure is in place, things got a lot better. And did not just uh, reduce or almost nullify the issues with pets, but also rubbish dumping and theft and all sorts of other things. But the CCTV report will be a separate video from a separate team from the committee. So we're focusing back on the pet issue here. The last years were reasonably quiet. Wouldn't you agree, Hong?
Yep, it's just mating season. You do have some cat roaming around because the village is an open place, but then after it finish, it's gone. So
We have put a couple of things into place, not just for the pet issue or for the animal issue, but also for rubbish and theft and so on, which is basically informing tenants, informing residents uh, to note down times and dates of any kind of suspicious activities on the property. And we keep on, as a body corp, informing people about changes, and improved our communications since then, which minimized the kind of misunderstanding and assumptions that people were under. And of course, the other thing we did is, well, we've been very active on the security side of things, and that pretty much improved the place quite a bit. And yeah, so how many cats? I believe there was one this year. Is that correct, Hong?
Yeah, I have just recently catch a tomcat and got him desexed because he has been hanging around for maybe over a month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
Um,
that's pretty
yeah,
much what there was this year, right?
just pretty much this year. Yeah.
Okay. So that is compared to what was it, 26? That is quite a reduction, and it was the year before it was less than it was more than two. I believe we had still had to deal with some tenants who had pets who moved in, who were the property manager at the time of this owner failed to inform tenants about the body corp rules, and so they just had a whole bunch of cats around and didn't look after them, so we had to take legal action there. But apart from that, every year it's getting better and better, and I think if we just stick with one cat a year, we're pretty good. We're pretty good. This problem can be more or less seen as resolved as long as we still have somebody there who is in good contact with the SPCA and keeps an open eye on the situation in terms of stray animals there, which shouldn't be just Hong, especially now that we have owners actually living there. Um, so if we all keep an eye out for things, we can make this work without having anybody to spend many hours and many hundreds of dollars to get a problem solved for us. Right. Well, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. And thank you very much, Hong, for all your work.